I'm Chris, let's drink some fucking wine. Singing. This has got to be one of the best iterations of Vieti Castiglione Barolo that I've had. Hey guys, it's Chris, the Reluctant Somm. Thanks for joining the channel. I'd love to tell you a little bit about myself. I've lived in San Francisco for about 5 years. I've been in the restaurant industry off and on for 17 years, and I've worked in wine sales and spirit sales for roughly 5 or 6 years cumulatively. Living in the Bay Area is really cool. We experience a lot of things. We have a great food scene and an incredible access to world-class wines and spirits. Given that I'm a fan of the beverage industry as a whole, I'll be talking about things from sake to sherry to spirits to beers, mostly wine, kind of wherever my fancy takes me. You're at my whim, if you will. Anyways, let's dive right in, as they say. I figure for the inaugural episode, it'd be nice to drink one of my favorite wines, Barolo. Barolo is a wine that comes from the region of Barolo in Piedmont, Italy. The varietal here, or the variety here, is Nebbiolo, is the grape that they're using. Think Cabernet Sauvignon in Napa Valley. This is Nebbiolo in Barolo. However, instead of naming the wine Napa Valley, we here call it Cabernet, and there they call it after the name. Because in the old world, it's all about that place, Later on, I'll do a demonstration video on how to open a bottle of wine for you, but for now, I'm just going to pour myself a glass, take a sip, and just kind of enjoy it along with you. In a formal setting, you would take the cork off first, but I don't plan on putting the cork back in the bottle tonight. I'll be finishing it. Sound bath. Yeah, 2019 is a great vintage for Barolo. Vieti is a 4th generation family. The wine's awesome. I was lucky enough to try it earlier on this month. I'm a big fan of it. It's super pretty, super polished. Castiglione is a wine that they make. There's different crus within Barolo, so sub-regions inside Barolo. This is made from 7 different crus. They basically create it into 7 cru Barolos, or individual Barolos from one area, and then they blend them together just to kind of create a more palatable experience. A wine that's able to be drank a little younger, a little less serious. This wine is still more than worthy of aging and cellar time. Could easily age for decades, like many Barolos can. But their cru Barolos are really special collector items. Fetch a little bit of a heftier price tag, though. All right, you may or may not notice this is a little bit of a lighter color in comparison to something like Cabernet that's purple. This is a light kind of tannish color. There's a little bit of pricking around the edge or thinner meniscus, something that's common in Nebbiolo. On the nose, dried rose petals, dried cherry. There's a little bit of an herbaceous characteristic to it. Maybe sage. But yeah, lots of cherry in the glass. And when you get in there enough, the alcohol kind of stands out. It's pretty well integrated, but most of the time with wines in Barolo, you're at 14 and 14.5%. And this one's not any different. It's not normally an indicator of anything in particular. It's more about how well people can integrate the alcohol into the wine. What I'm doing here is called aerating. I'm just giving a little bit of oxygen, increasing the surface area that the wine has, which is enacting evaporation, and it's allowing the wine to evolve a little bit more quickly. All right, let's give it a taste. Singing. It's singing. Again, I've had the opportunity to taste this wine before. The 2019 vintage, more specifically. Vintage over vintage, the Castiglione is always an incredible wine for the price, especially considering that the crus generally go for 3 times the cost. And this was made from 7 of them. I think that Oftentimes, young Barolo can be a little unapproachable. It can be a little too tight, a little too powerful. This is in a great place. It's obviously powerful. It's a powerful wine. It's showing its strength, but it's also showing this really wonderful layer of finesse. 19 as a vintage is kind of a dream vintage. So was 17. So we're really lucky in that sense to have access to these wines in our day and time. 18 wasn't a bad vintage. It's just sandwiched between two epic vintages. So this 19 Castiglione Barolo is definitely going to be something that I grab a few extra bottles of and lay it down in the cellar. Maybe I'll share it with my daughter one day whenever she comes of age. Yeah, the wine, I've also had it in the wine fridge, so the cellar temp is perfect. The chill helps kind of bring down the alcohol that's evaporating out of the wine. The tannin is there. It's grippy. It's silky. It kind of coats the inside of your cheeks. It coats the inside of your gums, but not over the top. And the acidity in the wine makes your mouth water, so it's a nice counterbalance. Sometimes you drink young Napa Cabernet or Napa Cabernet in general. Tannin can be really high, and it kind of dries your mouth out like you've just ate a walnut shell, or like you have wool socks on your teeth. That's how somebody phrased it to me one time. And that can be the case oftentimes for tannin, but it's always great when there's a level of acidity in there to help balance it out, get your mouth watering, get your stomach rumbling. Again, a great food wine. This is something that I'm just going to be having on its own. It's special. Thank you for joining me again for the first episode. But this wine would benefit from food. Most wine benefits from food and good conversation and good company. Eventually we'll have guests on, but for now you're stuck with me. And thank you to my assistant that's helping with all of the things on the back end, because while I'm really great at talking about wine and drinking wine, I'm really awful with computers. So if anybody has any advice or anything, I will gladly pass it along. But just be aware that it's not me doing this. And that's probably why it looks as good as it does. The wine's in a great place. I think this has got to be one of the best iterations of Vietti Castiglione Barolo that I've had. I've had the great opportunity to taste 4 or 5 vintages. I'd recommend that you go pick this up. If you can afford to buy a bottle to drink it now, you should. But if you can only afford to buy 1 bottle, I would say give this another 5 or 6 years. It's still in a great place. Ultimately, at the end of the day, drink the wine when you feel like drinking the wine. That's the right time to drink it. But definitely grab a couple of these if you can. Lay them down. I think they're going to age beautifully. Tannin, acid, those things are kind of contributing factors to the ageability in wine. Alcohol levels sometimes, residual sugar sometimes. But in this wine, it's mainly the acidity and the tannin that's going to help the wine age. Old Barolos, man, they're really special. I've had the opportunity working in different restaurants throughout the city and going to certain tasting groups and formats to taste through old Barolos, old Bordeaux's, old Napa Cabs, and old Rieslings. And I think those are the 4 categories that you should kind of look for when talking about grabbing a wine to age. Barolos, I've seen people drinking some as old as 80 years old. Riesling, 50 to 60, 70 years old. Napa Cabernet, we don't have nearly as much history. So the 1976 Spurrier wine tasting was really what kicked us off and really started making us into makers or producers of cellarable wines. Prior to that, people were just kind of making wine and drinking it. Not to say that there's not a lot around, but most of it started in the 70s. Long decorated winemaking culture in Germany and Italy and France. And California is doing a great job. So is Oregon, so is Washington, Finger Lakes in New York. I mean, all over the place. It's really great to see things happening. I think Napa Cab and kind of some of these other wines, Bordeaux, they require a certain cost for entry, and it's beautiful to see wines being made out of the Texas Hill Country AVA, Snake River AVA in Idaho, wines that are just enjoyable, affordable, not wildly expensive. You see trends kind of go throughout the wine world. Bordeaux was the big one, Napa Cab was the big one. Then Italy, you could get good deals in Italy. Now a lot of Italian wines are a bit more expensive. Then everybody went to Spain. Now Spain's a bit more expensive. Now you're seeing a little more stuff coming from Australia, at least in our market. We're being exposed to a little bit more stuff from Australia, a little bit more stuff from New Zealand, Pinot Noirs and Sauvignon Blancs mostly. Australia obviously is well known for their Shiraz, but they're producing a lot of other great wines over there. Mount Eden Riesling is one of my all-time favorite Riesling expressions, outside of Germany, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I could go on for days and days and days, and hopefully you don't get too tired of listening to me, and I'd love to have you back in another episode.